What's up, guys? It's Silent, and we're back with another episode of the True Exclusive podcast. And today we have a very, very, very special guest. She's an incredible independent artist, and I will never forget the first time I saw her live. It was at a showcase in Harlem back in, I think, 2011. She came out, and the first thing I was like, all right, I saw the big bow. And I was like, all right, let's see what this lady's gonna give. And I mentioned the bow because as a performer, as a creative, sometimes you have to do things or show things that make you stand out before you even show the talent that you have. So the bow kind of spoke to that. And she opened her mouth, and I remember she sang Tina Turner, Simply the Best.
Yes. Yes.
I was like, yo, who is this woman? And I want to play a real quick clip of that real quick.
Oh yeah. That I like remember that day so well. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Well, yes, this is Lydia Caesar. Welcome.
I actually just had a show in St. Louis and I did that song. That was my first time performing that song. And it has become like a staple of mine. So I love that you brought that up.
What do you think of when you see that clip?
That was like an electric show, right? There's As a performer, you do so many shows, and they're not all, no show is the same. There was an energy that night. Um, the sound was great. Like I felt like I was in good voice. Like if there's any singers watching or listening, they'll understand what that means. Because as an artist, you're not always in the best voice, right? Sometimes you're in your okay voice, like when you're in like good voice. And I was in like pristine voice that night. I remember stressing because I had my hair was straight and I usually wear it with the bow with the big afro. So I was like, oh my God, I hope I don't sweat my press out because I sweat a lot when I sing. And I just remember all those different elements. But I remember it all came together when I got on stage. And there was just an electricity in there that night. Now, I don't know who went before me because I was like late. I got there and I was next to perform. So I didn't get to see or feel like what the energy was like before I got on stage. But I know I had a great show that night. I met so many people that are still a part of my journey now. I met you that night. I'll never forget. I had nobody there to film. And I remember you came up to me and I was at a rehearsal for a play at my church like the next night. And I was messaging you like, can you send me that footage that you got? Because I don't have anything and I want to post it. And you were like, as long as you credit me. And that was like the beginning of our relationship.
Yeah, so crazy. So crazy.
I know.
You mentioned you were late. As a performer, I hear a lot. Some performers don't like to be at a venue before they perform. They like to just kind of run in and perform, or some like to chill, mellow out. What's your vibe?
So I wasn't late like to be on stage. I was just late for me. I'd like to be there a little earlier, but I arrived like just in time to perform. Basically, I didn't give myself any any room for like beforehand. So for me, and I'm also like a performance and vocal coach too, right? So I like teach artists and stuff like that, and I'm really specific about like show day routine. So for a situation like that, I would have liked to be there a little bit earlier, not necessarily in the room, but get there and be able to like decompress. So the shrine didn't have, and it was a showcase with a bunch of artists. So there was no like dressing room where I'd get to be alone. If it's an opportunity for me to be by myself in a dressing room, that's where I would want to be like right before I get on stage. I don't want to be in the audience mingling because when you're in loud venues, you talk louder because people can't hear you and you literally are straining your voice. Sometimes there may be like smoke or like, elements in the room that may not serve your voice the best. So before my set, I like to be someplace where it's quiet, where there's some solitude, where I can do like some vocal warm ups, where I can just drink my tea. I can have a little bit of like calm before the storm. Because once you get on stage, it's like energy, nerves, all that. So my vibe and what I advise for real is just a few moments of peace because you're about to get on stage and give. You're going to be giving, and your energy, your voice, your talent, your vulnerability, you're about to exert so much energy. And I think it's important to give yourself a few moments of peace beforehand. So like for that show, I hated that I was rushing because I literally like was heading, I lived in Queens at the time. So I was rushing to get to the city, find parking, and then I had to just like run inside and basically run on stage. So I had no like peaceful moment beforehand, but it worked out. It was still a really good show.
So you grew up in Queens, right?
Yeah, born and raised Queens, Hollis, Queens to be exact.
So can you talk to me a little bit about your childhood growing up in Queens, and maybe when
Yeah,
you realized you had a
the
gift?
talent. I'm a PK, a preacher's kid. Grew up like I like to say I was born in the pews because I can't remember a time in my life when I wasn't going to church and extremely involved in church. Um, I mean, like every kind of choir. There was like youth services, and on the weekends, and it was like where I wanted to be. Right, all my friends were there, so like some weeknights during after school, I would go for like choir rehearsal. Definitely Friday nights was like youth service, and then Sundays were at church all day services, even the evening service. And I loved growing up in church, like literally I feel like I wouldn't be who I am today without that foundation and that backbone of like my faith, right? So when I was young, I didn't have a choice, but as I grew up, I got my own relationship with God and my own faith outside of, what my parents told me was right. So it's such a big part of like who I am. And then also, since I was a preacher's kid, like I was in the pulpit a lot, right? I never looked at it like a stage because it was always like ministry, right? You're doing God's work. You are a vessel basically that God is using for you to talk to people, or even if you sing, right? It's never about like you and your talent and how great you are. It's always about how great you are through Christ, through God, like how great he's made you so that you can be a vessel and let your light shine. So I never saw the pulpit as like a stage, but little did I know like being in front of all those people was making me who I was going to be for the rest of my life. And then also like it was never as nerve-wracking because people in church are like warm and receptive, and like I said, it's not about you, right? So I never looked at like the stage as like a scary place. Growing up, it was always like this is what I'm supposed to be doing so I can like share God's love through my gifts and talents. So that I think that really helped me to be a good performer because like I mean, everyone gets nervous a little bit. Like there's nervous. Some people get really, really nervous, but I don't get like that. I've never gotten that like extreme anxiety, like that real nervousness before you get on stage. I'm just comfortable. Like I feel like it's where I belong. I've been on a stage setting, my whole life since I was when I was really little. We would get up there and like if it was my dad's birthday celebration, we would go up there and recite something or sing something as a family. So I was on the stage since I was really little. So I think that played a major part. I think I realized more so that it was a gift at school because in elementary school, I auditioned for Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was a Broadway play at the time, and we were doing it at school, and I auditioned. And they cast me as Joseph. And this is before the pronouns and gender roles were very specific back in the day, So for them to cast me, a little girl, in the role of a boy, I was like, why would you cast me as Joseph? And they were like, well, it's a heavy singing role and nobody else can sing like you. Like you can sing. And I was like, wow, like I growing up in church too, a lot of people sing. So I never thought it was really that special until that moment. And then all the kids in school started to like ask me to sing. They would be like, that's the girl who sings. And Mariah Carey Hero was like the song. So they would all request, can you sing Hero? And I remember like going on a school tour singing Hero for all the different kids, all at lunch, at gym, going to people's classrooms, going in the hallway, like getting the hall pass to go meet us and sing. And it made people so happy hearing me sing is when I realized, okay, this is a gift because something I think is just regular. All these kids like think it's so special. And I feel like that's a moment. That was a real moment in my life when I realized that I had something.
Can I be one of them kids in the school and say, "Can you sing a little line of Hero"?
Oh my God. Okay. There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer. If you look into your soul, I don't even remember the rest. I feel like
About to get my lighter and light it
it's
up.
so long. I literally haven't sang that song since I was like a kid.
So, okay, so that's when you realized it was a gift. When did you realize this is what I want to do?
Wow, that came way later. I was in college already. And I mean, I had like recorded a couple things, and my friend was a rapper in Queens, and like she put me on some of her songs. I would go to like her friend's house and like be in the closet singing. Like that's when people had their home studios and they would always use the closet as a booth. Like now it's different. Like people have like the chaotic eyeballs, and you got your mic outside now, right? But at that time, I would just I just recorded a couple songs with her, but that was more her dream. I could just sing, and people knew that. So, but I didn't want to be a singer. I really wanted to act more so. I knew I wanted to like be an actress. And I so much so that I went to college for acting. I studied theater in
Oh
college. So
wow.
all the way up to that level, like my dream and goal was to graduate college and just go to auditions in New York and beat the pavement until I landed a role or something. Um, I wound up getting pregnant in college. And this was right after I did this acting showcase and everything. And I was like about to like take the world by storm, I felt. And now here I go pregnant. And my daughter's father was a musician, a producer. So I wound up shifting gears because we would just naturally create music together because we were in love and we both did the same thing. So we created all these songs, and I'll never forget the moment where I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. He um we had like a little CD that we made or whatever. And he was also the musical director for this group called Three that was like had a nice buzz in Queens. And they were doing a show at York College, the same college that you came to that time. Yep. And they uh asked me to open for them. And I was like, "Oh, okay, that will be fun." So I did an opening set, and that set is what told me I was supposed to be doing this because number 1, I had never really performed original music because I didn't have any, right? I had just started making this music with my baby daddy because we were both into it, and it was like, okay, my boyfriend was a producer, I was a singer, and we just made music like for fun. And I started performing these songs. And that show, the response from that show, one of my high school friends was there and he was like, let me manage you. And I was like, manage me? It's like, I don't need a manager. And he was like, Lydia, you are a star. Like, you need to be performing all over the place. Like, you need to be singing. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know. Like, I never saw myself as that. Like, I always wanted to act. And that show, like, and not just him, but like people's response and everybody like coming up to me at the end was like, oh my God, you're so great. They were asking like for the music. And I had this one song called Melody Love that I wrote. I had just written it. I was like fresh after having my baby. I wrote it while I was pregnant with her. And they were just like, they wanted this song that wound up being the first single that I ever put out, called Melody Love. It was like my first hit for me. And that show kind of, I told my friend, I was like, oh, I mean, I guess. I was like, if you want to manage me, like, what are you going to do? Like, just do what a manager does then. And the very next week, he booked me a showcase in New York. And that was the beginning of the journey.
What a journey.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into that. What kind of artists were you into?
Um, I mean, first of all, you know how obsessed I am with Brandy. Like, you got her behind you. She was like one of my all time favorite artists. Like her, Never Say Never, literally like changed my life. Like I listened to that album till it broke. So that heavy on the Brandy, heavy on like the classical people, the classic artists like Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Celine Dion. Like these are artists that I grew up listening to in my house. I also really loved Andre Crouch. He was a gospel artist that not too long ago passed away, but he's like a gospel legend. My dad played him and also knew him, so I listened to him a lot. There was another gospel artist named Carmen. Ooh, when I think back, he was so corny, but he was like so good. That's the first concert I ever went to. When we got to go backstage, I got to meet him. um so like those were like the influences that I grew up. And then like at the time when I started doing music, yes, it was a lot of Brandy, always Michael has always been an inspiration. I loved Monica. Like the Miss Thing album was like, that came out when I was in elementary school, but that's when I got like, you know, the Monica bug as well. um and then I'm trying to think who else was like at that time. I mean, Beyonce, of course. Beyonce had come out with her, what was her first album? Dangerously in Love.
Right.
So Beyonce and Destiny's Child, I listened to them a lot. I also listened to a lot of rap because my older sister was like into rap. So like we listened to like Busta Rhymes and DMX in her car, like because we couldn't listen to none of that stuff like at home because my parents would be like, "What is these curse words
Oh
about?"
wow.
Oh no. So we listened to him. I'll never forget. My dad gave her his Lexus, his LS 400, and we would be driving around like we was the hottest things ever, listening to like Busta Rhymes and DMX and like P Diddy and the Family. Oh, that album was like a classic. I don't even know if we can talk about Diddy anymore. It's so weird.
Whew.
What a weird time we're in right
Oh
now.
my god, so crazy, right?
I know, I know, I know.
So you started doing the music. You released your debut album with Caesar, correct?
Yeah, yes, and I released
12 years
that
ago.
2012.
So what was that like for you to release an album as an independent artist as
It
well?
was, what a time. What a time. I It really was, because when I think about it, like independent artists were like just starting to like get their stuff. Like getting your stuff on iTunes was like a big deal. And this is before streaming. So people would pay for it and download your songs and save it to like their iTunes. So like that was amazing. And then I've also printed CDs, sold sold. I mean, I've probably sold like at least probably almost like 10,000 CDs. Like just pressing the CDs and bringing them to my shows and selling them for years. I love that. I love that CD. Like that meant a lot to me. And just being able to release music, like I had a small team at the time, and um we went through like a bunch of different songs that I had recorded and like chose the ones that should make the album. I had a like a listening session that like listing all the songs to let people listen and be able to choose and decide which ones help make the album. I had that in the city at this really gorgeous studio in Midtown. It was just like such a great experience to be, and I honestly feel like that's like, to me, I mean, it's hard. I was going to say that's my best body of work, but I mean it's between that one and the second one, Queen of Hearts. But I feel like Caesar's like a classic for me. And I feel like when I really blow up and get like super famous, that album is gonna go crazy because it's so good. It has so many songs that to this day people like listen to and comment on and are fans of, like Lottery. That song for me, like that song had a music video that played on 106 in Park. That was like early too. Like a lot of artists weren't getting like those kind of looks at the time, right? So that was like huge. And they played two videos. They played St. Louis music video and Lottery's music video, both on 106 in Park.
And what was that like? Like that had to be amazing. Just because
Yeah.
106 in Park was huge at that time. So to see your video there, what was that like?
It was surreal. It was just like, like a dreams do come true type of moment for me. That like you sometimes you feel crazy because you're like, is this really working? It just showed me like what was possible. My journey has been full of moments like that where it's like, you know, confirmations should just stay the course, not just don't give up. Um, every career looks different. And that's something that I learned like early on. And I'm glad I learned because a lot of times as artists, like there's just one model, and the model is blow up, well, get signed to a major, blow up, and be a big known artist that everybody knows. And that's it, right? Back in the day, if that didn't happen for you, you weren't a successful artist, right? And so for a long time, and I chased that for a long time. Let's not get it twisted. I mean, I was up at the labels, like I almost had a few deals, almost signed to Jive like the week before it folded. And that was a devastating blow to me because I thought the deal was happening. Like we had already looked over the papers and everything. And then the next week I hear Jive is folded. And the way the industry works, like it's not like the people who were doing the deal with me called me and were like, me and my manager, let's talk about what's happening. Like I found out through like talking to people, like through the grapevine, like Jive has folded, and now it's like RCA, and so it had like became two other labels basically, like joined with two others. And so I went down that road too. Also, like as an artist, especially an artist that's going to be resilient, you have to learn like how to pivot. And are you going to keep going, or are you going to stop and do something else? What the heck was I going to do? Like when I think about it now, I'm like I could never do anything else at all, right? So I stayed the course. And now I'm still in it in a space where success looks very different, right? Let's be honest. I'm still an artist and I'm a Leo. I still want to be famous. Okay. I still want everybody to know my names. I still want a number one. I haven't had any songs that have charted and made number one. I still want that, and I still believe that it's coming. Period. Like it's not even an inkling of doubt in my mind, right? But being an artist can look like success, can look like paying your car note and paying your rent. And I mean, like we moved to Georgia and bought a whole house. We're both creatives. My husband and I both like I always say like to people like YouTube bought us this house. And not just YouTube, like my husband is very smart. So he's turned like YouTube money into like brand deals and into like his own brand, right? So it's really his brand that bought us this house. But the springboard was social media, was creativity, right? And like so I have had the experience of like syncing songs and hearing my songs in movies and seeing them on TV, and like realizing that there's layers to what success looks like. And if I'm still afloat and doing things that are making money and I'm getting checks off my music and off my performance, I'm successful. And that's an important lesson to learn, especially now because everything's different from how it used to be. The playing field is kind of level, and thanks to social media, anybody can pop off at any time.
That is so true, and I relate to that because just as a creative in general, I'm like I used to have that mindset too. Like I want to be the number one show. I want to be the number one blog. I want to be,
Hmm.
and it's like, yo, all these things you're experiencing through the year. It's like it's not really. I mean, of course, you want the destination, and it's about the destination, but it's really about the journey. and the
Absolutely.
things you're learning along the way, the experiences, the people you're meeting, the
Yes.
connections. Like
Yes.
you said,
Yes.
those are the successes.
Yes.
And I do
Those are the
think
successes.
you have to go through it to understand it. Maybe.
I do think so.
Yeah.
Like, and then I mean, there are those anomalies. Like, there are people who come out of nowhere and make it. Rare, but it happens. People who just kind of like, a lot of times it may be like because of nepotism, which is fine. I'm also learning that that's a thing. Like when I look at like my daughter, right? She's starting to take her steps in the music industry. I want her journey to be way easier than mine because I want it to be like I've paved the way and made these relationships so that when she's ready to really dive full speed ahead into this thing, she don't have to like work as hard, right? I do believe that I mean, that is a real thing. And I want that for my kids. Teach them hard work, of course, but they shouldn't have to work harder than you. Like, that's going backwards. Like, our whole purpose is to like work and work so that our kids and our family can have their own experiences and they can have experiences that we didn't get to have, right? So but I do think it's an important part of the journey is like learning, experiencing, falling down, those heartaches, those failures, which life, I mean, life has plenty of that. Life ain't gonna spare you though.
Hmm.
Even if you do come out of nowhere and make it right away, behind closed doors there's a lot of tears that people are not seeing. Like, life will never spare anybody the heartache. That's just a part of it.
You know, and speaking about your videos being on 106 in Park, a lot of artists, I think every artist has that one song that stands the test of time, or like Cher has "If I Could Turn Back Time," or maybe now it's what is it? Believe.
Do you believe
Yeah,
in
yeah, But
love?
I feel like one of your songs you already have, which is St. Louis.
Yes, yes.
How did that song come about?
St. Louis, I love you. You think the perfect man. So that's my I that's on the first album, Caesar. I wrote that. I met my husband in 2011, same year that we met at Shrine. He was just my boyfriend at the time, of course, but that's the year we met. And I wrote St. Louis about him early, early. Like, we had been on like a date, maybe two, but I was inspired. I had never met nobody from St. Louis ever. He had an accent. He was really cute. And I was like, this guy is so different. Like, we were obviously like infatuated with each other. It was like the beginning, like totally like, I mean, talking all day. We had hung out twice maybe, and like, and never stopped like talking and texting and like just being like completely into each other. Like, I can't even call it love yet because it was, I want to tell you literally like two. It was so fresh when I was writing the song. I text him to make sure it was, I don't know why in my mind it was Louisiana that he was from. And while I was writing the song, I was like, you from Louisiana, right? He was like, no, St. Louis. And I was like, oh my God, thank God I texted him because the song, I was going to make the song about the city he was from. Or just really not about the city, but about a guy from another
Hmm.
place.
Hmm.
That was the concept. Was like, this song's going to be about falling in love with a guy from another place. And so the whole title and hook, like, the hook of St. Louis was going to be about that, using that city's name. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God I texted him because I would have messed it up. Like, that's how brand new the relationship was. But at the time, I didn't know where it was going at all. But I was like, I'm a creative. I write about whatever's going on. And at the time, I was like just really inspired. And so I wrote that song, and I knew it was big when I played it for him. And I had played it for a lot of people, and people were like, oh, yeah, this is really great. Well, two things really let me know the song was big. The first time I performed it, like, before I performed it, I played it for him. And his reaction was like, told me it was a banger. Like, he was like, this is crazy. Like, he just couldn't, and not just the fact that it was about him, but he just couldn't believe like how big the song was. He was like, "You really just wrote an anthem for like St. Louis." Like he just really felt so strongly about it, and that's when I knew like, okay, this is a great song. And then the other thing that let me know is before it was even out, I sang it at Webster Hall. I had a show at Webster Hall. That footage is probably somewhere on the internet too, if I look it up. And there was a videographer there from Africa. He was visiting. Wayne had knew him because Wayne was working for Jim Jones at the time. And I want to say like maybe Wayne invited him because he was at the studio and
Just to be
they
clear to the people watching, Wayne is the husband,
is
her husband.
yes, Wayne is the husband. Yeah. And anyway, there was a guy there named Marco, and he saw me perform the song and was like, I want to shoot a music video for this song before I leave to go back to Africa, like in 2 days." Like
Wow.
he was like, "I'm here filming stuff," and he did like he had his catalog was crazy. He shot all kinds of commercials in where is he from? Gabon. That's the part of Africa he was from, Gabon. Commercials like that dude there. He was like, "I want to shoot a music video for you before I leave," and I'm leaving like it was like Wednesday. He was leaving like Saturday. And I was like,
Wow.
okay. So we got it. We got a concept together. My best friend's brother was a model, and a good friend of mine. So he played my love interest. We used my sister's apartment. We shot in places that looked like St. Louis. So like we shot in Central Park. And then like fast forward, me moving to St. Louis, like we shot in the perfect locations. And Wayne told he was like Central Park, some parts of no, Prospect Park in Brooklyn is where we shot. He was like, some parts of this looks just like Forest Park in St. Louis. And then he would always tell me certain neighborhoods in Queens look just like neighborhoods in St. Louis. So my same friend with the brother, we shot it at her house because her block, he said it looks like a St. Louis block. Now, mind you, I had really never been there, so I just taken his word for it. So we made it happen. We used my sister's apartment. Um, there was a restaurant in Queens that my dad had a great relationship with the owner, and so we did some shots in the kitchen because like the concept was that like my boyfriend was a chef, and basically like hustling to like buy me a ticket to like go somewhere or whatever. Who knows? But the real, I mean, we just kind of like figured it out. I'm trying to remember, but you can watch the video and see. And we shot it in 2 days, and the video came out so good. I mean, because the director was just a great director. Like he knew what to do. He knew how to shoot. He had all his equipment because he was in New York for work. And I'll never forget. I put it out, and a friend of mine who worked for BET, Stephanie, she used to go by Noni. She was a singer too. When I put the video out, she was like, "You should try to get this on 106." Because she was a producer for 106 in Park. She
Okay.
was like, "I'm gonna connect you." So she connected me, and also BET at the time had like the Music Matters thing going on, which helped a lot too. Like they were just representing a lot of independent artists at the time, and yeah, that song kind of put me on the map. And to this day, when I perform that song, it shifts the room. It don't matter. It don't matter where. And like I performed it in New York for years, and people were like, "That's dope." And when I moved to St. Louis, forget about it. Like it just people just love it.
Another special moment, well, special for me was the True Exclusive relaunch. I have to mention that.
Yeah.
Um, I remember putting that together and wanting to, because I'm always into raw, real talent. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have Brandy perform, but I want to have like two or three artists that are really doing their thing at this moment to open for her.
Mhm.
And of course, the first person I was like, Lydia. So, what can you tell us about that experience for you?
Oh my God. That was like, first of all, you threw a hell of an event. It was sweating in that place.
Yeah, it was.
It was packed to the max. And I just remember, first of all, my story about Brandy, like just being in the same vicinity as her just meant like everything to me. I got to also meet Olivia that night. She was there. I just remember it being just such a room full of love. It was so much love in that room. And so much support. And I like those types of like, it was intimate in the sense that like there was like a small stage, all people around it surrounding it, so like people could literally reach out and touch you. Like it wasn't like some big stage where you're like far away from everybody. Like it just felt, you felt engulfed with the energy that was in the room. And that's just, those are the memories that I have of that day. I just remember it was like packed. I couldn't believe how packed it was.
Yeah, I know. I remember at one point, just you're in the moment and you're whatever host and do whatever you're doing, and then you're like, what the hell is
Yeah, it just hit
this?
you like, damn, it's packed in here.
um, but that also goes with what you're saying. The blessings and successes through the years of the journey.
Yeah.
So, in speaking about love, what is the secret to a long lasting love like your
Mm.
St. Louis?
I think just being honest with yourself and with your partner, right? That sounds like cliche. And it's funny. When I first moved to St. Louis, I got a job waiting tables, right? I didn't know what I was going to do when I got to St. Louis. I was like, man, I'm leaving New York. And we lived downtown. And I literally was like, I don't want to just be sitting up in this apartment all the time. So I walked around the city and found the steakhouse and I got a job. So I did mad anniversaries. So many anniversaries there where I would ask them. They'll be there for their anniversary and I would say, what's the secret? 90% of the people said the same exact thing. And I was like, this is so boring. Communication. Communication. That's what they all like. Everybody said, nobody was like romance, passion, none of that. And I was newly married. Literally, I was like a year into my marriage. And I was like, communication. I mean, I get it, but being married long, like now being on my 10 years, I get it, right? Most and a lot of marriages fail because y'all are not talking. Y'all are not talking about what's really bothering you. You are not having the hard conversations. You are sweeping stuff under the rug. You are letting things go. You are talking to other people about it. You are not talking to your spouse. And maybe for good reason. Maybe your spouse makes it hard to communicate with them. Maybe they have a nasty attitude every time you bring something up. Whatever it is, right? There's tons of reasons. Like, it's not always the person who doesn't want to communicate. Sometimes it's the person that's impossible to communicate to. Or you may have communicated to that person and it's falling on deaf ears and they're not listening. You have to talk about the stuff that you don't want to talk about. And it's hard, and that's hard. That is hard. Even if like I think like infidelity happens in marriages and like I even think that should be talked about before it happens. Like I'm feeling tempted. It may be a situation that you guys can rectify or that you get out of. Maybe it's time to maybe it's not working anymore. Before you break the marriage by cheating and then having a nasty divorce and like hating each other forever, have respect enough to bring your partner honesty. Those honest moments will save you so much drama because who wants to deal with like a nasty divorce especially if you have kids and now you're fighting and you hate each other because the person betrayed you and that they weren't loyal. But that is the long and short of it. Like I totally understand why that was the number one answer because people need to really learn how to effectively communicate, even if that means bringing a third party into the situation, like therapy, a mediator, somebody, because you two are trying to talk and y'all are not hearing each other, like the anger is too loud or it gets hostile every time, or sit down with somebody else. That's why this exists. Like we learned about mediation in grade school and middle school. They teach mediation for a reason because sometimes When two people are getting at it, you need a clear perspective.
Right.
It's not like rocket science. It's common sense. Like we learned this when we were kids. You and your friend are not getting along and the fighting won't cease.
I was just gonna say, and that's good advice for not only marriage, but relationships in general, family, friends,
Like
because you go
literally
through things with
with
those people as
everybody.
well. Yeah.
And people in marriages are so against it. Not everybody, but a lot of people are like, we're not seeing no therapist. We're not talking to nobody else. We're not bringing nobody else in when it's a part of life. Like it's literally like the way court works and like
Mm-hmm.
it, when if you can't see eye to eye, somebody can maybe help pull the wool back or introduce something from a place that's non-biased. That non-biased perspective sometimes will save you your marriage. And I think people just need to be more open to stuff like that and really effectively communicating, not letting the years roll by having the same old fights.
I ain't got no kids, but my niece and my nephew, those are damn near my kids. And just a couple of hours, I'll be like, "Oh Lord."
Can't wait
So,
for them to
I,
go. I already know. Like,
what is it like to balance all of that with being a wife, with having a career as well?
man, it's hard. I mean, if I had to like for real say one thing about it, it would be that it is hard. It is and it takes intentional work every day. You cannot roll with the punches. You cannot figure the day out as it goes. You have to have a schedule. You have to have time allotted and carved out for things, or else it can consume you. So I have to carve out the time. Like I have to be up at 5 o'clock before the sun is up because I need that time. If I'm gonna work out, I need that time. If I'm gonna record certain things, because I need quiet, I need that time. I'm getting work done for like a few hours in the morning. When Amadi wakes up, it's me and him. I make him breakfast. We watch Miss Rachel. We play with toys. Like we kick it. We have our time. Sometimes with the mommy parodies, he's in them. So like during that time when he's up, I'm like, doing video with me and him, and he loves it. He loves it, and he loves to watch them back. I mean, he's only 17 months, a year and a half almost, and he loves them, right? And then his nap time is around 12. That's why I'm able to be here with you. And the good thing is he's a good sleeper because with Amara, 1 hour I got when she was napping. And I had to really tiptoe. She slept really light and I got 1 hour during the day to get work done with him. It's like 2.5 hours because he gonna sleep till I go to pick her up from school. And then when I pick her up from school at 3, the work is done. From 3 to 8 is kid time. We're in this house watching TV, cleaning up. I'm making dinner. We have a great backyard with like a swing set and all that. So we'll go outside and play. We'll take, like yesterday, we went on a family hike. It was actually really dope. Um, we lean into it, like lean into that. Because the one thing I will say is this window don't last long. By the time your baby's like 6, all that little stuff is over. Like you can get work done with the 6-year-old. You really can. You can sit them in front of the TV and tell them don't bother me, and they won't. You sit your 3 or 4-year-old in front of the TV and say don't bother me, and they don't care. They're coming to knock on the door, but mommy, but mommy, but mommy. Once they turn about 6, 7, they don't care. So it's important to like love those years and appreciate all these moments. Like my time with my baby boy, like I cherish it. I take so many pictures and videos and like all this mommy content I'm making. Like I know I'm going to be able to look back on it and be like, those were great times. And like when he's a grown up, show him those videos. Like he's going to love it. Like to me, it's all stuff that, if nothing else, even if it wasn't getting like tons of views, like I look at our family vlogs, which when I started that, I wasn't getting no views like that. And I watch them back and I'm like, oh my God, like it's like watching something for the first time. Like, look at my baby. She was so fat. And like looking at all the moments, that stuff is not forever. So although it is hard, it is beyond worth it.
And you mentioned the mommy parodies. How did that come about? Cause you going viral with those. Like, wow.
A lot. Like we're almost at 100 million views
Wow.
across all the
What did
parodies.
that feel like?
It's weird. Honestly, it happened because I after Amadi, I was kind of like trying to come back, and while I was pregnant, and I went viral with my daughter, my oldest daughter. We sang a song, 100 Day song, and it went viral. And then after that, we did two more. But she's in college, so we couldn't be consistent with it. And social media is weird. Like when you go viral for something that big, it kind of becomes like what people want to see from you. So I got a little bit frustrated with social media because like it was like, and let me not say nobody, but like my content of me by myself stopped doing as well. And so I got frustrated because like I would post something and not get like the type of engagement that I wanted, like about my music. So I kind of fell back. I was like, I'm gonna just like lean off of social media for a minute because it was just starting to like that stuff was starting to get to me. And I didn't want it to ever dictate like my attitude, right? So I took a little bit of a break and when I came back with a renewed mind and I don't care attitude. Like it is what it is. I'm posting what I want to post. And people were in the comments like starting to request things. And somebody was like, do Made for Me by Money Long. And I was like, oh my God, I do not want to do that song because that was when it first started to uptick. And I was like, everyone was singing it. Like, you know, they got range, had like a Money Long challenge. And so every singer I know was singing that song. And I was like, I'm not doing that song. But it just kept being in my face. And I was like, man. And every time I would see a video with it, it had mad views. I was like, okay. I was like, maybe I need to do it. So I sat down here. I'm in my studio downstairs in my basement with the track. And as it started to play, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a remix of this. What can I remix this about? And I'm struggling like I don't know what to like. I'm like, okay, if I had a verse on Money Long, like you know how people do that, and then they
Yeah.
just write their own. And I
Hmm.
started coming up with some stuff, and I was like, this is just boring. And then I swear to you, it just hit me. It just hit me like, make it about your kids and make it funny. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, what could I be about it? And then it said twin, and then I got the first line I got was nobody keeps me up like you. I was like, oh, I was like, that's perfect because my 3-year-old literally will still stay up during the night. She'll come back and forth to our room like she stresses me out, and I was like, yo, this is gonna be hilarious. So I posted it the very day after the Super Bowl, and I was actually heading to New where was I? Oh, I was heading to Chicago that day to see my daughter, my oldest. She goes to college there, and I posted it right before I got on the plane. Bam! Within the first 20 minutes, I knew it was doing good because I got like 8 comments and like it had gotten like 100 likes that quick. I was like, okay, it's like they like it. Got on the plane, short flight, made it to Chicago like an hour later. And I opened in my phone and it had like 20,000 views. I was like,
Wow.
what? I hadn't gone viral since me and my daughter, like 2 years ago, maybe almost a year and a half. So I was like, is this going viral right now? And I was like, I just let it go. I wasn't sure. By the time I made it to the school and she and I, we had an audition. So we were singing and practicing. And then every time I looked at it, like by the time I got to that evening, it was at like 60,000. I was like, wow. I was like, Kalia, now I'm going viral with this silly thing. Like, and then even my mom called me like, that video was hilarious. Send it to me. I want to post it on my page. And then, so by the next day, it had over 100,000. And I was like, whoa. I was like, let me post this on TikTok. I didn't post it on TikTok. And
Wait. So
so
this. Wait. So this is not even on TikTok yet.
this was Instagram.
Oh my god.
Yes. And I posted it on TikTok at like 6 p.m. right before I was getting on my flight back because I was only in Chicago for one day. So I was heading on my. So I told my husband, I was like, I'm going viral on Instagram. Like we had over 100,000. He was like, whoa, last time I saw it, it was at like 20,000. Like that's dope. So he was, and he's the one who was like, don't forget to post it on TikTok too. And I was like, oh yeah. So I posted it on TikTok at like 6. My flight, I had an evening flight. By the time I got back to Georgia, it had over 100,000 on TikTok that same night, immediately. I was like, yo. And people were like, more, do more, do more. Oh, do one about this and doing different subjects. And that's when I was like, my husband was like, you definitely got to do more. And so I was like, okay. And I realized that song was the one. So I started just doing that song. And then I said, let me do Breakfast Texas Hold'em. That one blew up immediately. Millions of views. That one has like 13 million. That one is the same as the first Money Long. 13 million on TikTok, like 8 million on Instagram. And then I started to realize that, okay, you know, as long as it's good, it's going to do good. So then I started doing Whitney Houston ones, and both of those Whitney Houston ones are at like 2.2 million. I did Usher, yeah, I called it Share, and that one has like 300,000. Like they all do great. You know what I mean? Well into the millions, and I hadn't even touched YouTube Shorts. I forgot all about it. So like
Mm.
2 months ago, I started posting them all on YouTube, and now the YouTube money coming in, the shorts are in the millions on YouTube. So I'm
Yo.
just like, you know, I'm gonna put out a comedy album probably like within the next month with these parodies,
Wow.
full versions. I'm on my Weird Al. It is what it is. Like it's something that I can.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it a comedy. It's gonna, that'll be the category comedy, and it'll be mommy parodies. And it's what I'm realizing is that it's highly relatable, and people want to relate. That's what
Mm-hmm.
people want, especially on social
Mm-hmm.
media. People want to laugh, and people want to relate. It's a little frustrating because my original music content doesn't do half as good. I mean, I'm getting like 20,000 views on my original stuff, and that's over time, which I'm still grateful for, because there was a time where I was like pissed that I wasn't getting 5,000. So like I can't complain. But I would like, Instagram, can you please let one of my original songs get to 10 million? Please. Can you? Because you can see when the algorithm starts to work, they just start to push it. You can see it in the numbers. Like it just starts to jump and jump and jump. And that hasn't happened for me with my original music yet. But I'm going to just stay consistent with both, keep putting the parodies out there. And also realize that, and that's why I want to do the comedy album, because I know this social media stuff is temporary. It's, you can never know when the algorithm's going to switch and change. There was a time where on Instagram, everything was in order on the feed. And then there was,
Mm-hmm.
at first, it was only pictures, no videos. Now the algorithm changes every few months, they change the algorithm, right? So who knows? I could get caught
How do
now.
you deal with that? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. I right now I'm at the transition stage of, well, what up? Because I was a little, I would say maybe end of last summer to maybe, wow, maybe just a couple of weeks ago, I was really down in the dumps with just, because it's like, damn, why can't I just put stuff out and people watch it? Why it got to be about algorithm? Why it got to be the
No.
time I put it? Why it got to be about the song I choose to put in the background? Why
Mhm.
it got to be about all this ish?
It's bad. It's bad.
But in the
It's
last few weeks, I've gotten to the place of I just had to snap out of it because it was affecting me
Yeah,
mentally, affecting my emotions, and I wasn't happy. And I'm like, why am I letting this stupid thing
not make
not
me.
let me be happy? And I'm also not creating anymore because I'm getting discouraged. So now I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do, which is how I came up with this podcast. But
Nice.
what would you give? What advice would you give to someone who may be feeling that way with their
Yeah, I mean, like we
content?
both within this episode right here have both went through that same thing, right? Like just letting the social media affect our attitude. And I understand it too, because especially for us, when it's directly connected to our business, right? This is a big part of just like what we do. So, and then you build up an audience for so long, and then the social media channels get to decide who they show it to. When it's just like, yeah, I have 240,000 subscribers. I mean, followers. I should be getting 200,000 views on everything I post. Show it to all of them. And or at least 200,000 or at least 150, maybe let's say 50 or 75,000 of them are not active every day. I should be getting at least 150,000 views on every single thing that I post because these people actually chose to follow me. I didn't buy them. They saw my content and liked it and said, "Let me follow her." So now why is it a thing where you get to choose who you show it to? It's it's unfairness because they realize that that's giving people too much power, right? They get to maintain the power and control, which it always
Mm.
comes down to money. You will more, and like when you're promoting something, you are more likely to put money behind it. And so they will suppress that viewership because they want you to have to go through the proper channels. They don't want to just give you millions of free views when you can pay for millions of views, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you realize it's a game, you learn how to play. So one thing is try different things and lean into what they like to show people. And that's why I keep making the parodies because obviously they like to show these to people. So while I'm in this moment, I'm going to give them what they want, right? Also, just do it anyway. That's the hardest part. That is the part that's because that's how I came back, started. Like, I'm gonna just put this stuff out there and see what people say. Like whoever likes it, likes it. If they don't show nobody, it is what it is. And you have to deal with that because that is painful. Like when you put your time and energy into something and then you put it out there and they show like a little bit of people and you know that you deserve other eyes on it, it makes you like it's infuriating. But you have to push through. Like, what are you gonna do? You know, you can't just you can take a minute, you can take a pause to regroup because that's what I did. I took a pause to just get my head back in the game, right? And experience things in real life, enjoy like real things that you can touch instead of this that like it just takes so much of our time and energy. And then come back with a plan of like ways that you can create easy content because that's a big part of it too. Like once you create content that takes like a lot of time and it doesn't do well, it's discouraging. So like how can I like what can I do that's like really easy and that I'm really good at, you know? Think of things like that and just come back and just keep going. Put it out there and hope because there's no guarantees in this.
Right,
It's
right, yeah.
like that money long thing was the last thing I expected to take off. Honestly, I thought it was going to be cute. I thought it might do well. I was like, maybe I could squeeze 10,000 views out of this one. I would have been ecstatic if it got 10,000 because at the time I was like, they weren't letting me get to 10,000. I'm like, I'm landing at 5 to 7,000 every time. I'm like, can I get to the 10? I want to see a 10 point. I want to just see that dot. Can I see the dot? And it exceeded my expectations and wound up getting 20 million views.
And speaking about the emotional and all that stuff with social media and being a creative, I talk a lot about mental health and depression
Mm.
on the platform. What advice would you give to maybe a creative or just a mom or anyone watching right now who might be feeling lost in life, career wise, or just raising kids or relationships, or just feeling like they don't know what to do next? And in the same sense, have you gone through anything
Mm-hmm.
like that and how did you get through it?
Yeah. I think the first thing to do is be honest with yourself, right? That's how you can get to the root. There's always a root of whatever's causing the depression or the sadness. There's always a seed that's all the way down that started the issue. And it may have just snowballed, right? So the first thing to do is to be honest with yourself. And the way, what does that look like? It can look like you writing down like all the different things that are making you sad or, in detail. If it's one thing, what is it? And what about it makes you sad or feel like less than? And then trace, kind of like how if you're looking for something, trace steps back to when the feeling first started and try to eliminate things that were introduced into your psyche and into your space during that time leading up to where you are. right? So that this takes like soul searching and deep levels of honesty. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is
Hmm.
the source of so much depression. If you
Say, can you
don't,
say it one more time? Say it.
this,
Just say it one more time.
this phone, this social media, all these platforms are the source of so much depression and sadness. We look at these phones and we have no choice but to compare. It's impossible to see somebody doing better than you and not say, why not me? It's impossible. Like, don't make people gaslight you into thinking that that's hating. That is natural. It happens from when you're a small child. If you have two kids and you give one kid one candy and you put the whole bag of Skittles in the other kid's hand, that kid is gonna be like, what's going on? They're gonna snatch the other kid's Skittles. They may claw their eyes out. They may have a whole fight, and they don't have to get taught that. They don't have to. You don't have to teach your child
Mm-hmm.
that. It is natural, right? So if you are not where you want to be, and you're looking at people all day, be past where you want to be. Ain't no way you are going to be happy. You're setting yourself up for sadness and comparison. And the comparison is the thief of all joy. So limit your time on these devices, especially if you don't like have to be on them for your job. Like if this is not bringing you no income, if social media is strictly social for you, you do not need to be on it so much if you're dealing with sadness and depression. It's not helping. Okay. Find other things. Find television shows that you like. Find a really, really good book. Even if you like want to go on YouTube and like binge watch like stuff that makes you happy, like if you're into creativity, like look up like ways to like start to create things. Like you may find like a hobby or something that you may like to do, like crocheting or like designing jewelry or like designing tote bags or whatever it is. You may find something, and even though that is still a social media, it's different. Like YouTube's more like TV. You can really zero in on things like something that makes you happy. Like if cooking is a joy of yours, look into like cool new recipes and things that will spark joy. Like for me, literally having a bowl of cereal late at night, watching Judge Judy sparks the immense amount of joy for me. And stop comparing yourself. You have to stop comparing yourself. Everybody's life looks different. And what it looks like on here, 99% of the times, it ain't that.
Yo,
It
I
ain't.
was just about to say, and half the time, the picture you seeing on Instagram, it is not what you thinking.
It's not.
Or it
Some
took a
days,
lot to get to that. Like there
or
was a struggle to get there.
it took hell to get there. It is sometimes, it is some days, and they have bad days too. They're not showing you their bad days.
Mm-hmm.
They're not showing you their hair without the weave or their face without the makeup. They're not showing
Mm-hmm.
you how they tucked in their little gut on the side with Photoshop and editing. They're not showing you none of that. And you just looking and digging yourself in a hole, right? Every journey. And for the people who are genuinely happy and on social media and thriving and doing well, like you said, it took a process to arrive there. You may be at the beginning of your process while they're at the end. You're seeing the end result while you're in the beginning. Okay. And so it's really important to uh maintain a peace of mind. Don't start your day on this either. Like if you can open your day in prayer or in meditation, whatever you believe in, really focusing on that, saying your affirmations, writing your affirmations down that you are great and you are wonderful, all of the potential that you have, write it down on paper, write it on stick it notes and post it everywhere you look. Start your day pouring greatness into yourself and end your day the same way. And only use this when you need to. Limit the time. Like you can even put this on a schedule. Like tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna do an hour of social media. After when the baby's napping, I'm gonna just sit and scroll. And then for the rest of the day, I'm not gonna scroll. And if you have to post something, post it and move on. Maybe give yourself,
Yeah,
okay,
post
one
and move
hour
on.
after I post it, I'm gonna come back to it, check on it, respond to people, and then I'm not looking at it again till tomorrow. Because otherwise you're gonna be like, did I get another view?
Mm-hmm.
Did I get
Mm-hmm.
another view?
Mm-hmm.
We all do it. We all do it. I've literally had to like, I'm leaving the phone upstairs and I'm coming down here to do my recording because I'm not looking at it. And those are just some of the practices that will help you, because I saw a statistic that said 79% of kids today are depressed. 79% of children. This is why. This is the only difference. When we were kids, we didn't have this. We
We
would
was
go out,
outside.
we would go outside and play. And of course there was all the pretty girl at school or the outfit that you don't have, but you weren't seeing it all day, every day, all the time on your phone. What you don't have, what you don't have, what you don't have. That's what this phone represents, what we don't have, what we're not doing, the looks we're not getting. Because everybody's online bragging, you know. Choose the right accounts to follow, unfollow anything that's like toxic or negative. If you see somebody that's doing too much bragging stuff in your timeline, delete them. You don't need to see that. That's not energy that you need if you're going through, you know, a
Hmm.
self-discovery phase, or
Hmm.
like sadness or depression. That's not for everybody. But for some people, that's where you are in life. Mute that. No, I listen.
Eliminating your triggers, that helps a lot.
I
Yeah.
have done this before. Like, and I don't care how it comes off. It may look like hate, but it's like if I see somebody who's like doing everything I want to be doing and they constantly showing it off and I constantly see it, I have unfollowed. Look, I support you. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you, but I can't follow it because it's distracting. It's making me say, what am I doing wrong? It's making me literally want to switch. Maybe I need to be doing this too. No, I need to stay the course. And so I need to eliminate my triggers. And even if that trigger is just somebody just who shines too bright on your timeline, every time you look at them, they got something and you're in a rut. Why do you need to see somebody bragging all the time? You're not a hater. You don't wish bad on them. You don't want them to stop shining. The light's just too bright for your eyes. So get rid of them. And don't let anybody tell you that that's hate. Hate is when you look at somebody and say, that should have been me. That shouldn't be
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
And you literally have hate in your heart and you're hoping that they're not succeeding. Hate is when you see somebody do something and you're like, I hope that doesn't work out for them.
Hmm.
That's hate. Hate is not seeing somebody and being like, wow, that's amazing. I wish something like that could happen for me. That's
Right.
not hate. You still complimenting them. You're happy for them. You just wish that was uh that could happen for you as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a big part of that is inspiration. Like they may even say make you say like, wow, like if it's possible for that person, it could be possible for me too. But while you're in the healing stage, you may not need to see that all day every day.
And keeping with, this is a great segue because you were talking about affirmations and all of that. You just recently released a song, "The
Yeah.
Greatest Love Story Ever Told."
Yes.
Talk to us about talk to us. It's funny. I always say talk to us, and I'm like, no, boy, you a one man team. Talk to me about the
For the
song
people
and what it
watching, yeah,
stands
no, I
for.
get it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. The people watching.
That song, I feel like it's my most powerful song to date. It is a song about self love. It has a huge plot twist. When you listen to it, at first you may think it's about like a relationship with somebody else, but ultimately it comes around, and the song is about what I believe the greatest love story ever is that love that you find internally, that a lot of people go a long time without finding. A lot of miserable people don't have that internal love, and it takes work. It takes, just like any other relationship takes work. It takes work for you to like I said, pour in yourself and believe in yourself. And that's what this song is about. This song is like a song that I want people to listen to and like just become inspired, become like full of love for themselves. Like maybe, I wanted to bring people to tears because they love themselves so much after hearing this song. Or realize their love for themselves, or realize they should have been loving themselves.
Is this part of a project or just a one off song?
It's gonna be a part of a project. I'm gonna put out another single probably within a month for real.
Okay.
It's more on the self love. I'm in that era right now. So yeah, it'll be a part of a project.
Where can everybody reach you if they want to get in contact and see all your
Yeah.
things?
My website is everythinglydia.com. Instagram is Miss Caesar, MissCaesar, and I am Everything Lydia everywhere else. So TikTok, Everything Lydia, YouTube, Everything Lydia, website, everythinglydia.com.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Lydia Caesar. Thanks for tuning in.
This was
Until
great. I
next
love you
time.
forever.
Love you too.